I've tried to get so many people to come, and I mean, they come eventually, and they're like, I don't know why I waited that long. Issues live in our tissues. I was going to therapy and I was talking about it, right? But I wasn't moving it. I wasn't getting it out of my body. For someone that is curious, and the best way to explain it is an active meditation. It really is. Like, it's like if you put in headphones, you turn on a meditation and you go for a walk. It's that much, but you're laying down, you're still, and you're breathing. But this is more of like a transcendental experience. Everything that happens to you is for a reason. And you can either choose to grow from it, or you can choose to stay stuck.
Hello, my beautiful friends. I'm so excited to share with you my special guest, Kimberly Kaighn, today. Kimberly's journey is a testament of resilience, relentless pursuit of transformation, and self-discovery. Growing up on the move, with her dad being in the Army and his contractor role, Kim's early life was a tapestry of new beginnings, laying the foundation of her deep-seated quest for identity and belonging. Kim's story resonates with anybody who has ever felt lost or in search of something more. It speaks to those who have found themselves in the situation where their power was diminished and their identity was stripped from them. Her experiences echo with individuals who have gone through codependent relationships and to those who have prioritized others' happiness above their own. Her experience also connects with those who have gone through the loss of religion in search of personal peace and connection with the divine in the universe. After ending her marriage in 2012 and stepping away from the LDS Church, and then surviving a 7-year abusive relationship, Kim faced a pivotal moment on top of a mountain on her birthday in 2019. At this moment, she experienced tremendous clarity and determination when she chose to reclaim her life and embark on a journey of self-love and healing, not knowing where it would take her. Today, Kim is a beacon of hope and empowerment. She's really transformed her pain into her purpose. She is now a trained professional in trauma-informed breathwork. She is an intuitive life coach and embodiment practice, and she is devoted to guiding others back into their essence and helping others to love themselves unconditionally, and helping and guiding others to rediscover their inherent light and power. Her story particularly impacts those who have ever struggled with their self-image, their body image, their self-worth, their identity, and to help encourage others to remember that their needs matter. She's truly a fun-loving individual who pursues her passions, who is adventurous and playful and fun, and has this wonderful, deep side to her that connects with individuals and those who come to her. She is gifted in being extremely intuitive with those who come to her and trusting when it's time to help them in ways that they're ready to receive. She creates safe spaces. She does one-on-one coaching. She does group sessions, and she does retreats. So she helps people in many aspects and in many ways, and they're all incredible, whichever way you're able to work with her. I'm so excited for you to hear her empowering life story, her journey, what she does for people as she tells her beautiful mess and teaches those around her to remember the beauty within. Thank you. I'm so excited.
Kimberly, first of all, I want to thank you so much for coming and for taking the time out of your busy life and your schedule, running a shop and breathwork shops and working with people one-on-one with what you do in so many areas. And I'm just excited for you to share what's available to people. But I want to begin just going back in time a little bit. Yeah. Number one, thank you so much for inviting me. This is definitely new, but I am always up for an adventure. That is a big part of my personality. I'm just like, I'll try anything once. So, which actually leads back to what brought me to breathwork in the first place. So in 2019, I left a really, really abusive relationship. And I remember being on, just this mountaintop thinking, I have to leave
but what are people going to say? This is my second divorce. Like, what's wrong with me? Right? Why can't I find the right person in my life? And I just remember having a feeling so strongly that like I just had to be strong. I had to be brave, and like the universe was going to take care of me. And so my kids and I, we just packed up everything we could pack up out of our house. We moved in with my parents, and I just trusted that, things were going to work out. And it wasn't very far back from that moment that I had kind of found spirituality. I was raised in the LDS church. And I remember from a very young age just feeling like it wasn't right for me. And I continued to take the path of, getting married in the temple and having kids and being just this, this quiet wife that just does what people say. And, I got divorced from that, which he was an amazing guy, but we just didn't mesh. And so I left that relationship and moved in with my parents. And I had started working with crystals and doing meditation and stuff like that. And, went to therapy because I had some big time PTSD. And I knew there was something inside of me that was causing me to call in these people to be in situations that I had been in, but I didn't understand. So I tried to go to therapy, and it was just like all of the talking and reliving the moments and talking about everything just wasn't working. And I'm not saying that therapy is not a vital part of life. I really do believe in therapy. But a friend asked me, she was like, "Hey, I have a friend who's doing a breathwork class. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." There's my personality is like, "Yeah, I'll try anything once." So I go to this breathwork class, and I'm blown away at what I experience. I was in a state of fight or flight for years. I had no idea what it felt like to actually like be in my body, to be connected to my senses, to feel my own heartbeat. Like it was just my body was just in this state that when I was finished with that breath work class, it was like I can feel my toes. I could feel my heartbeat. Like I can feel like all of these things happening inside of me, and it was like this is what's going to help heal you, and it's going to be an adventure, but it's going to be worth it.
Now,
So
were you nervous about this experience before you went to the breathwork shop, or were you kind of?
well, I had already meditated a little bit, so I was thinking like, oh, it's just going to be like a meditation, right? Which a lot of people probably think about my classes when they're like, oh, it's breath work, we just go there and we breathe, it's not a big deal. And that's not it at all. You've been to one of my classes,
Oh
it's
yeah.
way more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, yeah, I'll go. And so, yeah, we laid down, we did the breath work, and it was at that moment that I was like, my little child, she knew that it was going to be okay, that I was going to be okay. And I had a huge, profound experience with my grandmother that has passed. And the same thing, the words just came, and it was like, "You're going to be okay, Kimmy," because that's what she always used to call me. And so it was just like at that moment, I knew that there was still something inside of me that I could fight, and that I could like get better, or like even further beyond what I thought I was possible of feeling and doing. And so that's why I'm just like, everybody in the world needs breath work. They really do, because it leads you back home to yourself. It really does. So yeah, it was after that session that I was like, okay, this is it. This is what's going to help me. And I truly believe that everybody has a path, and there's not one right way to move through that journey. It was just happened to be that breathwork was mine.
Yeah.
And I practiced on my own for probably 3 months. And with the amount of healing that I did in that 3 months, I was like, I have to learn. I have to become certified to share this with the world, because it would be selfish of me to keep it to myself. Because we know there are so many women out there that have come from very similar, if not worse, situations than I have, and they have felt completely lost. They have had their entire identity stripped of them. They're a shell of a person, and they're just living for everybody else. And that's what I was doing. I was just numb, and I had no idea who I was. And turns out I'm an amazing person. And I had no idea. And that, I mean, we could go way back into childhood and all of the things, but the final piece of it all is that I found a modality that truly helped me see myself as others see me, see myself as God or the universe or source sees me, as just this light, this being that is here to help other people, and then not have it hurt her, because I was super codependent in all of my relationships. I, put my needs last. I would, you know, do everything for everybody else. And then I was just left with nothing, because I didn't feel like I was worthy of anything. And my worth came from serving other people. And so now when we set boundaries, we can serve other people, but we're important too. And that's been the biggest learning thing with breath work. And it's not just emotional and spiritual benefits. There's physical benefits. It lowers your blood pressure. It can help with chronic pain. It can help with eating disorders, which are both physical and a mental kind of thing. And there's so many lists of things that breath work helps with physically, but it was really the emotional part of that I was just blown away by. So I'm so, number one, thankful for my past. I really am, because I believe everything that happens to you is for a reason. And you can either choose to grow from it, or you can choose to stay stuck. And I find that the more that I lean into fear, to moving forward, to experiencing something new, the more that I grow. And I'm still surprised every time I do breath work, what comes up. And it's like, well, there's another layer. And here's another thing to have to, think about. But also beautiful things come up, ideas, creativity, like what I want to do, like getting in touch with my highest self. If I'm ever feeling like I'm a little bit lost or I need direction, I can tap back into that breath, and it will help me every time.
Independently or in a class.
Yeah. And being able to teach it also helps me, because I get to serve in a way that fulfills me. And to be able to see people stepping into who they are, recognizing their power again, that is the best part for me. When someone comes to me and says, I didn't really understand this, but now I do, and I feel so much better, it's like, yes, you got it. And I was just the guide. You did the work.
Yeah, but you create the space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge. I mean, for me, like any opportunity I have to go to your workshops, I want to be there, because that happens. I can go there and not know what's going to come up. Just like you described, like with or without an intention, every time I've gone, I want to say it blows me open.
Mm-hmm.
And bigger and bigger things happen, things that I didn't expect or know were there. It feels like a gentle process.
Right.
And it goes, but it's like quantum leaps. It's exponential.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so personal. Like I feel safe, even though I'm surrounded by people,
Right.
to cry if that comes up, or to make noises like everybody else, because there's an opportunity to express these things that I felt like growing up I wasn't always heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come a long way to get where I'm at. But I even noticed between the first time that I went to your breath workshop and the second time, I had so much more voice,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the ability to express myself to a whole new level. And that shows up in other areas of my
Mm-hmm.
life. And it's just in that moment that things shifted moving
Mm-hmm.
forward. So yeah, it seems like the benefits are really exponential, but so specific and unique
Mm-hmm.
to any individual, regardless of the reason that they're there.
Very much. And I always start every class with saying the breath won't always give you what you want, but it will give you what you need. And when I first started facilitating, I would have everyone write down an intention, right? And I kind of stopped doing that, because that's an intention is almost a way of putting an expectation on something.
Mm.
And so you're focused on that intention and you're breathing. And I think it can kind of distract people from what is actually coming up sometimes.
Mm.
So I like to tell people, allow the breath to give you what you need.
Mm.
And most of the time it will. I had a client, can't say the word, had a client come in last class, and she's been coming to my classes for a while now, and I just love her to death. I swear we knew each other in another life somehow. And her grandmother is on kind of her way out of this world. And she's very, very close with her. And she told me that during this class, she was told that it's her that needs to help guide her to the other side. Like, she needs to be there with her to help her through that process of taking her last breath. And so, I mean, so many profound things. I could go on for hours about the profound things that have happened to me during breath work, the things that have come up, the things that I've healed. So much trauma healing within my body, because our issues live in our tissues. I was going to therapy and I was talking about it, right? But I wasn't moving it. I wasn't getting it out of my body. And that's where a lot of trauma is stored, because our brains shut it down and it has to go somewhere.
Wow.
And so it goes into our bodies. That's why there's so much dis-ease in the world, because people aren't dealing with their emotions. They're not looking at their traumas. They're not looking at their childhood and saying, "Ugh, that wasn't okay."
Yeah.
And reparenting that little child, that was huge for me.
Yeah. And even if you do look at your childhood, there's these layers of healing that you described. Because for me, like, awareness is the first step, but it's not the final step. It's not the end all. And for me, like, my body, it does store things, and breath breathes life into those areas that are ready to come up. And what I heard you say is, with or without the intention, it's almost like just surrendering to an experience.
Huge
and
surrender.
Allowance. Yeah. And I have found that with or without an intention, typically I do get what I need. And with an intention, I rarely get my intention does get filled, but rarely in the way that I expect.
Yeah.
It's like other stuff shows up. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? And then by the end, I'm like, oh, wow.
Or it can be days later.
Yeah.
And that's another really important thing. It's like with any psychedelic journey, it's with breath work, it's the integration. There's the work, and there's the initial process, and then there's the integration that literally can go on for 3 to 4 days. And so I always encourage people, journal. Like, I have so many journals that I have written down breathwork experiences, or things that I wanted to have happen, or manifestations that I did during a breathwork session. And I go and look back, and all of, like, so many of those things have come to fruition. And it's all about holding that. It's holding that vision for yourself, and just holding the line, and all the while playing and having fun and enjoying each stage that you're at. I think a lot of people can get stuck in like this, I have to heal everything. I'm not healed here, so I have to try this. And I'm not healed here, so I have to do this plant medicine. I'm not healed here, so I have to read this book or do this training. And it's like, you're just replacing your trauma with staying busy and learning, instead of actually dealing with your shit.
Right. Because it's in the act of breathing. I once got this deep impression. It's just like the quantum leap you're wanting is a breath away. And it was shortly after that I learned about breath workshops, and I was like, what? And it was just a strong, like, this is it. This is it, because it's a form of acting. It's allowing yourself to be part of the process of releasing it and feeling. And the truth is, like you mentioned, psychedelics, it's your body's own ability to tap into its own chemicals to release and surrender without any substance other than your own choice to breathe
and surrender.
Yeah. And it's intense. But it feels so like you're choosing into it. Like nothing is taking over.
And you can slow it down at any time. If it becomes too much, you can just pump the brakes and just take some deep inhales into your belly. I do always encourage people to go to the edge. Like, find your edge and just get comfy there. Like, if we're not pushing ourselves to that edge just a little bit, we're not making the progress. But it is always your practice. You can always stop at any time, but I do encourage people to really, it's called breath work for a reason, because there is some work involved, but the reward at the end, that feeling that you have at the end of a breathwork session, that meditative state, that connection to source, that connection to your body, to your heart, to your soul, all of it is worth choosing in, like you said, choosing into the experience.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it's a difficult experience physically. Granted, there are things that come up physically for me that I feel like are sometimes induced by the breathing, but it's not like what's difficult sometimes is my own mental barriers. That's what I hit.
Right.
Or the feelings that come up. And once again, I think the way to get the most out of it is to surrender and to trust that this is one of my mantras right now is I can. I can go a little further. Even going to the gym, like I like to just see when I think, oh my goodness, I'm feeling so tired right now and I just want to stop. Sometimes it's that repetition. Yes, do slow down if you need to. Take those breaths. But then when you keep going, it gets easier. And it's just like you hit one hill and then you get to go to the next peak and then the next. And it's okay to slow down a little bit, but stay in the game. Keep going.
It's you against you.
Yeah.
Really.
No one else is against you. No one else is trying to sabotage you. In fact, everybody's there to help you. And that energy is motivating to keep going. And yet you can still choose your pace. But I feel like once you get to that one edge, you find that it's not the edge, that there's actually so much more beyond that. And that's where the growth happens. That's where we expand in new areas and overcome those limits that we had.
Yeah. You touched on some of the physical things that can happen during breath work. And so one of the biggest things that can happen is you can get tetany, which is a tightening of your hands. And there is a spiritual and a scientific reason as to why this happens. The spiritual reason is because there's still something that you're holding on to, that you're not completely surrendering, and that you're still just not quite ready to let go of whatever it is. And the scientific reason is you're pumping so much oxygen into your blood that your CO2 is pooling in your extremities. So it's just kind of staying there, and that's what makes you tighten up.
Really?
And you're always fine. There's no nothing is ever going to be wrong. It's happened to me several times. I can still use my fingers, but that is the reason scientifically why that happens. And so when I tell people, if it gets uncomfortable, you just need to blow out more on the exhales.
Oh, really?
And then that will release some of that from your blood, and then you'll be able to kind of go back into it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest reasons I was drawn to teaching breath work. And that was because I had my first really beautiful experience with spirituality and kind of the different modalities that there are out there right now. It was Reiki, and that session of Reiki was beautiful. And there were some things that the practitioner, she had no way of knowing. And I believed in that. And I knew that was something that was beautiful and that could help me. But there wasn't enough science behind it. There wasn't enough why does your body do this? Why does this help you release trauma? Why? And I needed to know the why. And so when I was able to find breathwork and I went through the training, I was like, there's this beautiful spiritual part about breathwork, this beautiful connection that you can have with yourself, that you can have with others, your ancestors. I've had many experiences with ancestors during breathwork. But yet there's still this base that tells me why, that I can understand. And it's scientifically what's happening to my body. Why is it doing that? What causes me to get out of my prefrontal cortex and be able to go into my subconscious and find all of these little nuggets of things that I need to release. And so that is why it was just beautiful to me, because it was a perfect balance. I'm a Libra. I'm an air sign. So obviously breathwork I was called to that for a reason, I believe. And also I'm like the scales, right? So I need to have There has to be some balance there. And while I'm not registered or trained in Reiki technically, but I also believe we all have the ability. I believe that we're born with that gift of, they talk about it in religion as the laying on of hands. That, Jesus had the ability to heal people with his hands. And I think that we're all given that. And I know that I've had so many experiences where I've been in a session or I've been facilitating and I've came to a person at the exact moment that they needed me to touch them, to put my hands on them. And I know that that power exists in all of us. Become the best person that you want to be, because that's what we're meant here to do. We're meant to learn, grow.
Yeah, we are. And quite frankly, in my experience, there's always someone that I usually meet along the way that's a step ahead of me. And it only takes one person being one step ahead of you to find that person to help you get to that next step. And just like your experiences, when you made it so many steps ahead, you're like, I need to go back and help others.
I can't not share this.
Yeah. And because of you, I've been able to experience so many beautiful breathwork shops.
Thank you.
I've loved them, and I'm so excited that more people can learn about them.
Yeah,
and
it's definitely becoming more popular,
yeah.
which I love. And a lot of people have been like, are you upset that there's like more breathwork people in Cache Valley? And I'm like, no, there is plenty for everybody. Like my dream would be to get all of the breathwork facilitators in Logan together in one spot and be facilitating 100 more people at one time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in my experience going to your space, like it's been full. Like at some point, like you sell out. It's okay to have many people out there doing it. Or at this rate, you're just going to need a bigger space.
Yep. And everybody can benefit from this healing. And I am always here to watch people rise. Like I love watching people step into their power. And if it's in the same modality as me, then let's freaking team up and let's create more. And just, there's abundance everywhere. There's plenty of space.
There's enough for everyone.
Yep.
Absolutely. And another question I have for you, for those that haven't experienced this, what would you advise them? What do you think would help encourage them to risk this experience? Because it seems almost surreal. Like, what would you tell someone that's questioning, should I try this? Is this for me? How would I know?
Yeah, you won't know till you try it.
Really?
Like I've tried to get so many people to come, and I mean, they come eventually and they're like, I don't know why I waited that long. It was fear. I think it was fear of the unknown, and also like just thinking it was going to be like a breathwork, like a yoga class where yoga brings in breathwork a lot in its practice. But this is more of like a transcendental experience that like it's hard to explain to someone that's never done it. But for someone that is curious, and the best way to explain it is an active meditation. It really is. Like it's like if you put in headphones, you turn on a meditation and you go for a walk. It's that much, but you're laying down, you're still, and you're breathing. But I feel like you can get the same benefits. It's like an active meditation. So if you struggle, if you want to be a better meditator, even breathwork will help you with that.
Wow.
Because it activates at the same time as it's honing in on just calming that nervous system. And what it also does is it allows you to experience a stressful situation. You can go into that fight or flight, and then your body knows how to calm that down. You can experience something stressful, and then it's like, okay, I'm dealing with this, I'm breathing through it, and now I'm going to just let it move through me.
That helps.
And that also comes a lot with like embodiment work, which I also do, movement, somatic movement, and all of that helps too. So I would just say trust. If it's something that you've been curious about, jump in with 2 feet and surrender, because you won't regret it. I have had one person in the hundreds of people that I facilitated for tell me that she absolutely hated it, and she was resisting the whole time.
Maybe that's why she didn't like it. Because resistance it's almost painful to do things that we resist. It's like digging your heels
into the ground.
And being dragged along the pavement. Of course, that's not going to feel good. So as you surrender, there's flow, there's movement. It's like swimming upstream. It's just like, no, flow. Go with the flow. move
down.
with it. And breath is definitely that way. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is like the hardest part about life is learning that it can be easy, but learning those things that make it easy, that flow with it. And it's, once again, it's breathing with it, it's living with it and tapping into it. And I love that you connected it with meditation, because truly, I have a friend that has gone to either your breath workshop or your mentors, and she struggled with meditation. She's like, I cannot focus. She's like ADHD, like squirrel brain all over the place. And yet being able to do the breath work, it gets her right in the zone. And so somebody that is trying to get better at meditating, this is one of those things that will get you there, like instantly. You can't not get there. How can people find you? How can they work with you?
So I don't have a website yet. Like I said, the back end of business is it's very out there for me. I don't quite understand it yet, but you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is soulbody_breathe. Or you can find me on Facebook. I have a very interesting last name, so it wouldn't be hard to find. So it's just Kimberly Kaighn, and it's spelled Kaighn. So you can find me there. I do Zoom calls. If you want to try a breathwork session, I do offer the first one for free, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it is and kind of dangle the carrot in front of your face, because I promise the first time you do it, you'll be like, what just happened? I do group sessions also, and I also am a intuitive life coach. So if you feel like you need to, if you just aren't on the right path and you need someone to be there to just be a lighthouse for you and kind of guide you and, show you your shadows and kind of just be a reflection that you can kind of just get on your path. And so
it really does. I absolutely love that. And thank you so much for sharing. I feel like we only scratched the surface of everything that there is to know. So once again, thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah, I could talk forever about breathwork. And I do retreats too. So we have an awesome retreat coming up in April in Bear Lake, and it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be fun. We're going to celebrate our healing. We're going to celebrate everything there is to celebrate about who we are and connect back to our fire and our passion, things that light us up in life.